Hello writers, and welcome back to Spooky Writes, your channel all about writing. I'm your host, who is secretly a ghost, Kamal Onor. Now today we're going to be talking about magic systems. Are they actually important? Is it something that you need to spend hours meticulously writing, hours creating the perfect magic system for your world, or is it something that could just be forgotten altogether? Well, that's what we're talking about today on Spooky Writes. So make sure if you got any value from this video, make sure to give it a good thumbs up. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. It helps the channel out a lot. And with that said, let's head into the storm.
It's the raven's call, the werewolf's howl, the vampire's bite. You search through the woods for safety, but all you find is... Okay, rights.
So magic systems are one of those things that so many beginning authors want to craft. They want to include it in their world, especially so many beginning authors who are attracted to writing fantasy fiction. They want to meticulously create an innovative, they want to create a new magic system for their world, and they feel that this is so important, but I don't believe it is. I think a better way to look at creating a magic system for your world is, instead of giving exposition on how characters can cast fireballs from their hands or how certain people are able to control the weather or can do whatever magical abilities, I think it's more important to define the rules of your world. And this can be done in a very subtle manner. You don't have to give your readers pages and pages of exposition, pages and pages of what is essentially a tutorial, right?
Hello, hey, listen!
Because a better way of creating a magic system within your world is to instead define the rules of your world. What allows certain people to have magical abilities? What magical elements are people capable of? Does this require training? Is it something that people are born with, or is it something that simply exists in this world that you have created? And I've also done a video talking all about how beginning writers should, in my opinion, avoid writing fantasy fiction novels, specifically when they begin, because it takes so much time to craft, and creating a magic system to me falls into a similar category. And I think a better way of approaching creating something that is a magic system from the ground up is instead just establish the rules of your world. And once you establish the rules of your world, it's so important for you to keep it consistent throughout your story. If you're just trying to fill in plot holes within your story, and you say, suddenly he realized that he could cast fire from his hands, but previously you stated that in order for people to cast fire from their hands, it takes years of practicing and years of training. And here's someone who doesn't have any of these past rules that you've established, and this is going to make the reader stop. It's going to make the reader go, this doesn't make any sense. And readers are very perceptive in how close they read into text and how close they will read into your story. So a better way that I believe of looking at creating a magic system, which I personally believe creating a magic system is not something you should be spending a lot of your time doing, especially as a beginning writer, especially when you're first writing a story, especially when you're first attempting a novel. I think it's more beneficial for you to instead define the rules of your world and then stick to them throughout the writing. And this is going to serve you so much more than taking the time to create and meticulously craft a new magic system that you're trying to implement. Because honestly, readers tend not to care too much about magic systems within a world. What's more important is defining the rules of your world. What makes your world different? What makes your world unique? And how does it operate? The analogy that I've always heard is that the buses have to run on time. Does your world even have buses, or is there a different mode of transportation? And I know that this video is starting to veer more into talking more about world building, but magic systems tend to come up in fantasy settings It doesn't always have to be, which that would be an interesting idea, I think, to follow down in a different story. Maybe you set a piece maybe you have a piece that's set in modern day times, that's set in your home city, that's set in New York City, and someone realizes suddenly that they have access to magical abilities. You now have to define the rules of this world, and instead of creating and spending your time trying to create an intricate and a fresh take on a magic system, why not instead focus on telling the story? And this is the same advice that I give of why I believe you should avoid fantasy fiction novels, especially world building, because so much of your time being spent on world building is taking away from the story. Very similar with crafting a magic system. Instead, focus on your story, establish the rules, and stick to them. And this is going to be the best thing that you can do. So I'm not recommending that you abandon magic systems entirely. If you want to write a magic system, by all means, write a magic system. It's not something that the reader has to be told in detail. You don't have to have your characters sitting around discussing the great lineage of the wizard who passed his magical who passed his magical skills down from generation to generation, and it just happened to be given to the chosen one. Man, there's just hobgoblins everywhere apparently. But it's so important for you to define the rules of your world and then stick to them. If you're going to just kind of throw out magical abilities like they're nothing, just kind of everyone can randomly, arbitrarily have magical abilities, it's going to detract from your readers. And there is certain knowledge that I believe you as an author, you can know the intricacies of a magic system that you're creating. But this isn't something that necessarily has to be told or referenced in any way for the reader to know. If you've done your job as an author, if you've done your job focusing on the story, if you've done your job instead establishing the rules and then sticking to them within the writing of your story, there's going to be no need for you to fully flesh out a magic system, for you to have to spell everything out to your readers, assuming that your story needs to be front and center. That's what I have for you this week on Spooky Writes. Again, if you found any value from this video, make sure to give it a good thumbs up, make sure to subscribe to the channel, and as always, keep it spooky.